What's going on, YouTube fam? I hope you guys are having a great holiday season. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. I make weekly YouTube videos regarding anything CRNA school and Army. In this video, I want to go ahead and talk about my GRE experience, how I studied for it, and what study materials I used. So I ended up taking the GRE twice. The first time I took it was back in 2017, December of 2017. I had originally scheduled to take it in October, but as time got closer to October, my October scheduled date, I didn't feel confident. So I studied for 4 months the first time, and I ended up scoring a combined score of 299. On the math, I made 152, and the verbal section, I made a 143. My writing was a 4.5. So some people will say that a 299 isn't a terrible score for applying to CRNA school, because a lot of schools only require around a 300 to apply. However, if you know me, you know I applied with a low GPA. And I needed to compensate my low GPA with a higher GRE score. So that first time around after I took it, I was absolutely devastated. You know, I put 4 months of my life into this exam only to come out with an okay score. The first time I took it, I was about a year and a half into my first job, and I think that working on night shift was kind of what screwed my studying and ultimately my test day. I did not do well working on night shift. I was constantly tired and sleepy, whether I stayed awake on nights all the time or even if I flipped back to being awake on day shift. I had a lot of trouble studying, focusing, and I remember even the night prior to my test day, I couldn't fall asleep, so I was awake all night. And going in, I had such bad testing anxiety because of it. So after that first time I took it, I kind of just stopped worrying about the GRE. The second time I took it wasn't until this year, 2019. So I took like a year and a half break from the first and second time. And during that time in between, I just kind of focused on transitioning to my new job at a different hospital on day shift. And then I also worked on taking a few different classes to raise my GPA. Once all that was done, I knew I needed to get back at this GRE and start over again. So the second time I took it wasn't until April of this year, 2019. I actually ended up only studying 2 months this time around, but the main difference I think was just being a normal person again and working a day shift job. I was able to study a lot more efficiently because I wasn't tired all the time. So I ended up scoring a 310 combined, which for CRNA school is a competitive score. I made a 152 on the verbal, which was a significant improvement from the first time I took it. And then I made a 158 on math, which wasn't a huge improvement, but it was still 2 points higher. And then I made a 4.5 again on the writing. So my biggest weakness on the GRE was obviously the verbal section. So the second time around taking it, I had to tailor my study plans for the verbal section. And specifically for me, I struggled a lot on GRE vocabulary. If you're like me and you struggle on vocab, you can totally use how I studied for the GRE. So I used the ETS official GRE verbal reasoning book, and this was a crucial study guide for me, obviously because verbal reasoning. And I also used the official guide to the GRE, which is also by ETS. And these are the guides that make the GRE. These are official materials from the test makers themselves. The guide to the GRE, this one is the same layout as just the verbal one. The only difference is this one also has math in it as well as verbal. And the verbal questions in both of these books are different ones, so it's extra questions you can practice. There's also a math version of the ETS study guides, but I didn't use that one because I didn't struggle on math. And then there's this Manhattan Prep GRE 5-pound book of practice problems. This one, this one is huge. It's 5 pounds obviously, but it feels like 25 pounds. This one I use mainly just for practicing harder math concepts and problems, just so I could score a little bit higher on the math section. There are verbal problems in the Manhattan Prep book as well, but they're not very good compared to the ETS study guides. I'll leave links to where you can purchase all of the study guides down below in my description. I also had a huge list of 1,000 GRE vocabulary words that I memorized over the 2 months. I added mnemonics onto every word that I had trouble memorizing, and I think this was really helpful because I did end up seeing a handful of the questions on the test. And I know you're thinking 1,000 words seems like a lot, but you don't know what words are possibly going to be used on the test, you know? So you have to memorize as many as you can to score well. Finally, I utilized the GRE subreddit. There are a handful of really great mentors on that website. These are people that score like perfect 340s on the test. So their knowledge is amazing. They also make free YouTube videos. There's a guy specifically, his name is Greg Matt or GRE Matt. He has really good videos on test taking strategies and I recommend them. I ended up watching a few of them that I utilized for when I took the test, and I think they truly helped me. So you've probably also heard of Magoosh. I used it the first time I took the test, but I didn't ended up using it again the second time. I think Magoosh is good if you have, if you struggle in math topics, but for verbal, I didn't really find that much value in it. So my takeaway experience for the GRE is that everyone is going to struggle on one part more than others. Like for me, how I struggled on verbal and GRE vocabulary and did well on math, others may be the complete opposite. You know, they struggle on math but get like a perfect score on the verbal section. So I think setting at least 2 months of solid study time is essential if you're not just a natural genius. And truly focus on what your weakness is. Like for example, if you're like me and you struggle on vocabulary, do what I did. Find a long list of GRE vocabulary words and memorize them, and then also hound in on verbal practice questions. Doing these things is what's going to help you get the highest score to be competitive for when you apply to CRNA school. You know, if your GPA is super good, then obviously you don't have to work as hard on the GRE as like I did. And if you don't score well the first time, don't be discouraged by it, you know, use that as an experience and learn from that experience. Tailor your study plan for the second time around and do things differently. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's my GRE experience, how I studied, my scores, and all that. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. Any questions CRNA school related or GRE. And if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. Share this video, and I'll keep making more videos in the future. Thanks, you guys, and until next time.